post-colonial studies, cultural studies, and all. And a personal confession: she is my teacher, and she has been my teacher for the last 23 years, and she remains a teacher always. Thank you, ma'am. Over to you. And our speakers are Professor Lajvanti Chetani, MS University of Baroda, Professor Darshana Bhatt from Gujarat University, and Dr. Smruti Ranjan Dhal from Central University of Gujarat. Ma'am, over to you.
We have an interesting set of speakers who I think will come to this. This is the question of mapping Gandhi. And so we have 15 minutes for each presenter, and we start with Professor Lajvanti Chetani from the Department of Political Science, MS University, and she has contributed widely to a range of petitions, and she has a strong foothold in political theory. Yeah?
Good afternoon, and I would not go with the rhetorical statement that a post-lunch session is a difficult session, because I think the pre-lunch session is more difficult. We're looking forward to the lunch. Now that the lunch is done with, we can get to business. So thank you, Professor Archer, for that very warm and for chairing the session. And I must put on record my gratitude to Gujarat Vidyapith, particularly the Department of English, Atul, Amrinder, and yourself for inviting me here. I must also say this is the first official visit of mine to Gujarat Vidyapith, so it's special for me. I have chosen to, and some of you, as we were just talking, I play with ideas. So I'm playing with Gandhi, because I think that all that is left now to do is to play with him. And play is not bad. We know that as children, we all love playing. So please don't look at play as something which is bad. So I'm playing with Gandhi. In the morning, giving his presidential remarks to the inauguration, the Vice Chancellor of the university talked about how Gandhi is something that we all, celebrate, look up to. Thank you very much. But cold water. Acknowledge. Can I? That we all look up to, acknowledge, celebrate, and feel very proud of as Indians, that Gandhi is an Indian. But when it comes to us being Gandhi, us doing a Gandhi, we are a little hesitant. So I'm going to do really this about perhaps what is it to be a Gandhi today. And some of you would know that I have on 3 earlier occasions said that for me Gandhi, and I'm going to say that, Gandhi is a method. He is not a man. It's a method, and we have to make a method out of Gandhi. But before that, I want to also say something, that I think what we have done in India today is made a saint out of Gandhi. And I want to go back to when, and this is a fact, when Richard Attenborough decided to make the film Gandhi in 1959, he made it much earlier than he thought of it much earlier than the movie came out. And he goes to Nehru and asks Nehru that, tell me how Gandhi walked, tell me how Gandhi talked, explain to me what do I do with Gandhi. And Nehru goes on to tell him things, and this is a fact. So Nehru goes on to show him photographs, and that is how the movie was thought of. There are very harsh critics of Richard Attenborough's Gandhi, but so Nehru goes on to give him and then he says, so this is not documented, but this is from Bhikhu Parekh. Bhikhu Parekh says that although what I'm saying is documented, but this part is not documented, and the part is this, that Richard Attenborough takes the photographs and leaves Nehru's, the Prime Minister's bungalow, and Nehru shouts, Richard, and wait. And I'm not, this is how Bhikhu Parekh told me. Richard, wait. So Richard, and please, when it's 2 minutes, just let me know, I'll wind up. So Richard said, what? So then, and this is, Gandhiji was a great man, but he had his weaknesses, his moods, and his failings. We Hindus have a tendency to turn anyone we see as great into a god. But Gandhiji was much too human and complex to be one. So keep him human. And what Bhikhubai was asking is, how do you translate this word much too human in any Indian language? This is a department of English. How do you translate this? Much too human. And therefore, what I'm going to do is to keep the humanness of Gandhi, because I think it's important for us. He was not a saint. Yes, we have designated him the father of the nation. I do not know what his critical appreciation on that would be. But I'm looking at him the way I look at Hobbes, Locke. I don't say Hobbes ji, Locke ji, Rousseau ji. I don't do that. We don't even say Nehru ji, Ambedkar ji. But we definitely do say Gandhi ji, because we have made him a saint. I just want to desacralize Gandhi in this paper. And I've chosen to title the paper From Civil Disobedience to Critical Swaraj. Critical Swaraj is what I think we need today. It's not just Swaraj. We have already attained it, I think. We're very proud of it. We're in the 75th year of Swaraj. So maybe we need to add a little bit more to what we have, because I think we're still quite short of even being called, from political science perspective, a successful or a working republic democratic form of government. I think we forget the republic all the time. We talk about democracy. I'll read a bit of paper and I'll come back to but I just thought I'll put this on record that I'm not looking at Gandhi as a saint. So I'm not going to apologize for not calling him Gandhiji. He is for me not Gandhiji, because if he's Gandhiji, then I can't play with him. You don't play with God. God plays with you. In one of his many well-thought and articulated works on Gandhi, Akhil Bilgrami notes, and I just met him yesterday, although this was written before I met him, it is generally foolhardy to write about Gandhi, not only because you're never certain you've got him right, but because you're almost sure to have him wrong. While making this presentation, I admit I'm confused by the same dilemma. I may be getting him wrong, but as I said, it's okay to play. Among the most revisited ideas of modern-day India have been the Gandhian concepts of Swaraj, Ahimsa, Satyagraha, and even Swadeshi. It has come back in a very big way now. And yet they continue to remain the most slippery, with each attempt at grasping them resulting in new and more nuanced forms and understandings. The concern of this conference, as identified in the title, is attempt to understand the ideas of Gandhi across cultures. Put differently, to revisit the Gandhian idea, to revisit the ideas of Gandhi for a contemporary global political understanding belonging to the discipline of politics. This paper is an attempt to contribute to this project by recognizing the imperative to travel from the Gandhian idea of civil disobedience to an interpretation of the Gandhian concept of Swaraj as a method, as critical Swaraj. We have understood Gandhi in different ways, as Mahatma, as leader of the anti-colonial movement, as a symbol, as a statue, as a chapter in books of history, and recently and on the note, the currency note, and even as his spectacles, and I think spectacles are without sight. The spectacle as the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. I wish the eyes of Gandhi were also brought in, because my glasses can't see. My glasses facilitate my sight. Leave them aside, they can't see anything. Or a chapter in the book of history, which I think is soon going to get washed away. I suggest that it is imperative for us, and in particular, to address the problems we confront and to recognize Gandhi as a method. Why Swaraj? Evidently, Gandhi developed and articulated his idea of Swaraj, or self-rule, literal translation, self-rule, in terms of a response to both the colonizers' justification for colonialism, as well as in opposition to the violent methods adopted by those who then came to be identified as extremists in their attempt to gain freedom from the colonizer, or those who today justify the means of violence to address and resolve questions of injustice and oppression. And we know that today violence has increasingly become the justification. We stand up and shout from towers, tall buildings, and say, put the rapists to death. little even thinking about the implication on the rape victim. I'm not going to say survivor. If murder is equal to death, then are we saying the rape victim is dead and therefore the rapist needs to be put? But we don't even give time to think about this. We shout. For Gandhi, both these experiences, that is colonialism as well as violence internally to solve problems of injustice and opposition and oppression, although poised on apparently contradictory arguments, share something in common. They both strip away the legitimacy of the people to rule themselves. According to Gandhi, legitimate rule, and more importantly, self-rule, Swaraj, does and ought not to follow from an alien authority, just as it cannot depend on the politics of violence and exclusion. At once, one could locate the continuing relevance of the Gandhian concept of Swaraj in contemporary political cultures. And I don't need to talk about the incidents of violence that we're experiencing all across the world, where everyday politics is increasingly worked out and carried out on essentially exclusivist claims, where people are violently excluded in the name of newfound when we more than ever must recover and make dominant Swaraj. It can't just be Swaraj. It has to be critical Swaraj. Let me just not read more because I think I'm going to fall short of time. But why not civil disobedience? Why critical Swaraj? And I'm saying from civil disobedience. Because civil disobedience was clearly the strategy adopted by Gandhi, keeping in mind the fact that the law which he was disobeying was not made by him. It's not a law which is authored by us. It was a law which was authored by the colonial master. If the law is not authored by me, I have a moral right to protest. But what happens when the law is authored by me? We are not only a democratic form of government, we are also a republic. And we celebrate Republic on 26th January, just round the corner. So we'll be celebrating 26th January, and what is there to celebrate on 26th January is we gave ourselves the Constitution. We gave ourselves the law. And please do not forget that we first became a republic and then we became a democracy. Why? Because we had to frame out the laws where we will direct our democracy. So when the laws are made by me, do I have the political, moral maybe, the political right to protest? And I think that's why civil disobedience, and you see this protest going on in many places, but I would not call it civil disobedience or satyagraha. That's why you see that they will often take different forms. When the farmers' protest came, interestingly, it came as civil disobedience because they said, you didn't ask us before you made these laws. These laws are not authored by us. But I think we need to go one step ahead and talk in terms of critical Swaraj. Critical Swaraj, so around the world, and I think there's another problem which we see today. One is that civil representatives, and therefore it's not politically justifiable for me now to say hello. And remember, in a democratic society, your moment of protest is the elections. So when you're protesting, one protest at the time of the voting, that is a moment of protest. You can't be on the streets and questioning the legitimacy of perhaps a form of a party or a person or a government. Something that I love because it was something that came up in response to both the left and the right. So critical theory comes up to the shortcomings of classical Marxism, as well as it comes up to the Holocaust which was experienced in Nazi Germany. And you have the Frankfurt School saying what is the first lecture given by Marcuse says what is the role of Social Science Institute today, when you have the left seemingly redundant, not able to answer questions, and the right coming up in this very violent way in Nazi Germany. And I think it's good, and that's why I think critical theory is fascinating. And to put it in a nutshell, critical theory will say you'll have to do three things in order for your understanding to be relevant. It has to be explanatory, it has to be normative. And I think the problem with India today is we have no normative vision at all. So this is foot and mouth syndrome that critical Swaraj, and I'm talking about the culture of critical Swaraj. Because violence is exclusive, we have to think about an inclusive understanding. And when we talk about India or Bharat or whatever we talk about, I think that we should not, it's not really about, and actually nation, interestingly, nation is a very inclusive concept. Nation, we have made it exclusive, but nation assumes or acknowledges the fact that we're all different. And because we're different, what is going to bind us? Therefore, we need nation. अगर हम सब एक हैं, तो then why do you need the concept of nation? So nation also, but it's inclusive. I know it's become exclusive today. Plurality, obviously equality, and I'm going to put on record the contributions of Ambedkar to the concept of what I think is critical Swaraj. Because as I keep on saying, what would have happened if freedom was achieved but equality was not guaranteed? What would have happened? We would have gone back to monarchy, we would have gone back to Brahminism, we would have continued with it, and would you have celebrated such an India? So I think we need to put on record also not just Swaraj, and that is why I'm saying Swaraj is not enough. It has to be critical Swaraj. 1 minute, critical. It has to. So equality. Obviously, the understanding of fraternity. Fraternity is not nationalism. Fraternity is I choose to be an Indian. We need to give some attention to the fact how many of us choose not to be Indian today, and we see how many people. For the mess, dialogical, and I think dialogical form of dialogue, and I think dialogue is increasingly, and where else do you see the absence of dialogue but in that institution which is supposed to be dialogical, and that's the parliament. There is no dialogue. This is amazing, and I'm looking at things as a political scientist. Please, I'm not from the Department of English Literature, so I'm the last. And the last, and I think this is important for us, I think we need to, and I say this is why I'm playing with this man, I think we need to replace our obsession with pleasure with our acknowledgement of pain. We have to accept that we are a pained society. There is pain. And I keep on saying this, that the evidence, give me just 1 minute. The evidence of my being alive, and 1 minute, you tell me, the evidence of my being alive is that I experience pain. Is it that I experience pleasure? Interestingly, pain is what is productive, not pleasure. So I painfully work, and that is what is productive. I am experiencing pleasure, usse kya milta hai? And I think, why is Gandhi a problem today? Check all the statues of Gandhi. He is in pain. He is not marching, he is walking. He looks pained. And when you raise or invoke Gandhi, you invoke Gandhi because you are pained. So when there is a protest or a satyagraha, do you say, hum bahut khush hai, chalo Gandhi ko lekar aate? Nahin. And I think that is the problem with Gandhi today. So but we need to invoke pain as part of critical Swaraj. I'll stop here, and I hope I haven't short up my time.
Respected Chair and friends, my topic is different from the previous speaker's topic because she has decentralized Gandhi and made Gandhi man, and I'm going to make that man into Mahatma. So, the title of my paper is Contemporary Relevance of Truth and Non-Violence, Satya and Ahimsa as a Solution to Global Problem. I would like to begin with a poem by Karsandas Manik, which is a summary of my entire paper, which says, Satyanu kavya છો બાપુ, કાવ્યનું સત્ય છો તમે, સત્યનું કાવ્ય and કાવ્યનું સત્ય, જંખતી કાવ્યની સૃષ્ટિ, સત્ય આ આપને નમે. So that is a great is not limited or ordinary. He believed that the power of non-violence was stronger than the firepower. Non-violence is not a concept, not an ideology, but a life force for him. As he says, ahimsa is the soul force, and soul is imperishable, changeless, and eternal. Ajo nityo shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. But the taste and condition, it must permeate every pore of our being and to innate with every breath what we breathe. One cannot practice non-violence without abhaya. Gandhi firmly believed that used to repent towards India's untouchable. He wanted a united India, he wanted a free India. Gandhi believed that any political system, this is very important when we are facing Russia-Ukraine crisis, Israel problem, based on one's own selfish interest can create conflict. A system based on principles of truth and non-violence protects the interest of other nations, sarva dharma sadbhava. Narrow outlook, desire to exploit, and established hegemony, and of course the lack of tolerance are chief causes which divide the nations. Lack of tolerance and possessiveness lead to false competition in which we all live today. One nation proves superior by destroying other nations. If this attitude continues, the future of humanity will be at stake. Gandhiji's concept of non-violence is not limited to social political level, but it extends to individual and social level. The cases of domestic violence occur in our daily life. Gandhiji believes that respect and protect the dignity of individual, and if we respect and protect the dignity of individual, then I think Dalits are also human beings, blacks are also human beings, women, LGBTQ. So Gandhi visualize a society which is equal, and I can categorize non-violence teaches us aparigraha, that is also very important. One who holds things more than required resorts in violence. What is therefore needed is self-restraint, sanyama. Through non-violence, human beings can overcome innate weakness and evils. Gandhiji succeeded in his experiments not only with truth but with non-violence. He is an example worth emulating to present violence-prone society. Throughout his life, Gandhi remained an epitome of truth and non-violence. He preferred death rather than deviation from his path. His message to humanity is the observance of truth and non-violence. He wrote in Young India, non-violence works in a most mysterious manner. For me, non-violence is not a mere philosophical principle. It is a rule and breath of my life. There is no escape from any of us to save through truth and non-violence. Gandhiji's concept of non-violence is a trendsetter which has also influenced foreign thinkers. We have Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, so on and so forth. The journey from M.K. Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi to Mahatma is a journey taken through truth and violence. Truth and non-violence can turn man into Mahatma and Veer into Mahavir. The concept of non-violence has no boundaries. It is not synonyms of cowardice, but a spiritual force to fight against the global terrorism. This principle, based on universal brotherhood and peace, we desire for harmonious, peaceful, and lovable society. And the truth and non-violence is the only way. In the present century, all of us need to learn a mantra, ahimsa, paramo dharma. We can turn our globe into a beautiful world only through the means of peace and non-violence. And I would like to conclude with a beautiful lines by none other than Gopal Krishna Gokhale. ગાંધીજી એક એવા પુરુષ છે જેમને વિશે યથાર્થપણે એમ કહી શકાય કે તેઓ પુરુષોમાં પુરુષોત્તમ, વીરોમાં વીરોત્તમ, દેશ સેવકોમાં અગ્રેસર છે. અને આપણે એમ પણ કહી શકીએ કે ભારત વર્ષની માનવતા, હ્યુમેનિટી, અત્યારે એમના પરમોચ્ચ શિખરે પહોંચી છે. થેન્ક યુ વેરી મચ.
I request Priti Ranjan now to take the film.
Thank you, ma'am.
15 minutes.
Yeah. My friend Amarendra has put me in a difficult situation because I find two stalwarts. I mean three. Why I said two? Because I know them in person before this. So Professor Chatani happens to be my PhD examiner. So that scare thing is okay. And Professor Achar is my friend's supervisor. So that way, it's a little difficult situation to be a co-panelist with them. And I stammer a lot. So, why I'm saying this, standing in a big hall, which I really do not like. So, classroom is okay with me. I have been teaching for last 12 years and I have been teaching Gandhi. So, I teach at the Center for Gandhian Thought and Peace Studies. But okay, let me try what I have. So my paper is titled as Gandhi, Self and Sovereignty. I don't like to read out paper because that don't give. I mean that doesn't give the sense of attachment with your paper. But due to paucity of time, I will have to do that. Sometimes. So to understand Gandhi's philosophy on anything, you need to understand it in from a holistic point of view, because all his ideas are interlinked with each other. So if you need to understand Gandhian concept of the self and its relation with sovereignty, then you need to understand it from a holistic point of view, by linking it with Sarvodaya, with Swaraj, with Swadeshi, how he understood truth, non-violence, and other interrelated concepts. But that will be too mechanical to go on talking about all these ideas one by one. So what I'll do is that I will map what was the concept of the self in Gandhi. So as I see Gandhi, as I look at him, I find it was this, when I'm talking about the Gandhian self, it is the self that he philosophized, but it is also the self that he tried to live throughout his life. So, Gandhian self is a self of experimentation. it's a self of conviction. It is a self of activism. It is also a self of reinvention. It is self of reinterpretation, modification, or what Anthony Parel calls it, Gandhi tried to do conceptual transformation of a lot of existing ideas. So I look at Gandhi or Gandhian self as a self who engages with the existing ideas and to modify it to suit the the present context, and that's what Gandhi did. If you look at Bhikkhu Parekh's text, Colonialism, Tradition and Reform, you find that you look at the edited text by Fred Dalmer and between tradition and modernity, you find that if you look at the responses that the Indians had towards British rule, Bhikkhu Parekh gave a fourfold classification: modernist, traditionalist, critical traditionalist, and critical modernist. So Gandhi can be located in the critical traditionalist, fold. Why? Because you find a kind of complex interplay between tradition and modernity if you look at Gandhi. And Gandhi didn't have a very strong objective sense of history. Gandhi talked about it, a golden past, a golden Indian civilization, but he nowhere in that text, Hind Swaraj, he would tell you, when that golden past was there. He would often, call that, we had a golden past, he would resort to the traditions, but then he would not say, when that golden past was. That's why I claim that, Gandhi didn't have a great sense of history. So, self is a sovereign self, which can even, which stands by the conviction, and it can go against the sovereign state. So the sovereign Gandhian self can go against the sovereign state also, the idea that Lajbanti ma'am was talking about. So what kind of reinterpretation or modification or reinvention that Gandhi did? The first one is, of course, Swaraj. Swaraj was the first or the major concept that Gandhi, engaged with, and he modified it. Swaraj existed before Gandhi played with that word. Swaraj was thought to be negative freedom or political independence, but then Gandhi changed it. Gandhi added the spiritual dimension to it. If you look at the Indian civilizational, values, if you look at the ancient civilization, Indians would look at spiritual freedom or spirituality, and they linked it with renunciation. If you want spirituality, you want to go back to, or you want to renounce the family, the society, you have to go to the Himalayas, so that you can get spiritual, knowledge. That's what Buddha did. That's what many, traditions you find, except the Rishi, Rajarshi Janak, who was there in the, as a king, but, he was also a Rishi. But otherwise, you find that in the Indian tradition, you always valued renunciation. Gandhi changed it. So Gandhi modified that concept of renunciation, and he, so he was interested in the concept of Sthita Prajna that you find in Gita, and Gandhi called Gita Ma. Whenever he was in doubt, he used to read Gita for guidance. So Gandhi took this the concept of Sthita Prajna from Gita, and he thought that a self should be like a Sthita Prajna, means equanimous self. I mean, you are not moved by happiness or by grief. And Gandhi also took Karma Yoga from Gita, and the interesting modification that he gave to Gita is also very interesting. Gita normally, if you, I mean, in many Hindu homes, you find the picture, of Krishna and Arjuna on the chariot, and so that is the picture of Gita that we have in mind. That means Gita is a dialogue between Krishna and Arjun, where Krishna exhorts Arjun to do righteous violence. So Gita was interpreted as a text which preaches violence. But Gandhi changed that meaning. As I said, Gandhi had this self who would take the existing idea but modify the meaning. That's what he did throughout his life. So he changed the meaning of Gita, and he argued that Gita offers you a imaginary battlefield, not the battlefield of Kurukshetra, but the battlefield within ourselves, where the evil and the good are in a continuous fighting. So then Gandhi also modified the meaning of rights. Gandhi had a very strong notion of right, as Anthony Parel points out. Actually, satyagraha was a method to secure rights. Whenever we talk about satyagraha, we normally talk about truth, non-violence, but the emphasis on rights is actually missed, from the discourse on satyagraha. So satyagraha was basically a method by Gandhi to secure rights, but Gandhi had a very different notion of right. The discourse of rights that you have in the West depends on a kind of human being which is a bodily creature, so there is no dichotomy between body and soul in the Western philosophy, in that sense that we have in India. So the Western discourse of rights relies on human being as a bodily creature. So rights are means to secure your interest against the encroachment by the society or the state. But Gandhi understood, and he
also write that Indians, educated Indians, have this new fetish of obeying the law. So I don't know if he really meant ki because it is not written by us. This whole idea of obeying a law which is below the law which my conscience tells me to obey. So how do you respond to?
Throw the light into Gandhi's rights and duties. He also said that I can only have rights when I fulfilled my duties. So even if I have voted for a majority and state government, which like 80% of the population, then I also have a right to criticize that government as well because I have fulfilled my duty. So that's what I wanted to. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. The question is that some of the clarification was given by the next speaker. That traditional criticism of the Gandhi had said the ahimsa and satya as old as the hills. But when we look at the history, we have not too much examples of such things that can become a discourse of the majority. They are the minor examples of such ahimsa and satya. We can say if you can take the Raja Harishchandra or Mahavir Swami, but these are the small means in the sense individuals they are, not in general public.
This is my observation. This is not a question. As I believe that Gandhi was never in favor of Purna Swaraj. He changed his view after the Jallianwala Bagh incident. Another thing is that he was heavily influenced by Bible. He was heavily influenced by Puritanism. And if you have read the letters addressed to Sarojini Chaudhary, the niece of Rabindranath Tagore, he in fact used the word lawgiver. That is particularly the word which occurred in Old Testament also. So most of the ideas I can associate most of the ideas of Gandhi I can associate with Stoic philosophy, which is very difficult to practice. As sir has mentioned that he did not pay his second premium. So these ideas are very good when we are listening, but it is very difficult to practice in a real life. Another thing is that I find the answer of my question which was raised by me in earlier session I found the answer in this session as ma'am has mentioned that we should consider Mr. Gandhi as a human being. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Hello? Yeah. I think what we'll do is we can have Priti Ranjan's question and then Lajwati can respond. You can respond to the questions as well and so can.
So, I think I also share with Amarendra what he said. What Professor Chatani presented regarding civil disobedience, each part of the story regarding civil disobedience, that I disobey your law because I have not made it. neither me nor my representative. That is part of the understanding of civil disobedience. Gandhi had a very strong notion of civil disobedience, even when either me or my representative, has drafted the law. Then also I can, I can disobey the law. Why? Because partly because the self can change. I can become a changed self. I may have drafted it. I can disobey the same law. And also, if you look at even John Rawls and many other political philosophers, civil disobedience can be compatible with the idea of democracy, because in any practicing democracy there is always this danger of majoritarianism. So that is why the minority, as Elias also asked, the minority and Rawls actually associates it with minority. That this is the last resort that they can have. So civil disobedience can be engaged in not only when I have not drafted it, or when the law is drafted by the alien government, but also when my own legislators have drafted it. Then also I can disobey, because as Amarendra pointed out, because it is a law that my conscience does not allow me to obey. That is not because somebody else has drafted it, but because my conscience does not allow me to obey it. Thank you. And regarding the comment that it's difficult to practice, that is true. It is difficult to practice. But then Gandhi was a human. The message that Rajmanti Madam was giving, Gandhi was a human. I mean, how can we say that it is difficult to practice? Gandhi went to the law court in South Africa by cutting his hair himself. When the white hairdresser didn't agree to cut his hair, he did it himself. And when next day he reaches the court, all the people made fun of him, that Mr. Gandhi, maybe rats have eaten your hair. So you need to have that conviction, and you need to have that courage to practice what you believe in.
Thank you. And let me begin by thanking everyone for their very relevant comments. Let me begin with the human, because I began with the human, and I won't take the credit for that. That goes to Nehru. It is Nehru who told Richard Attenborough that he's much too human, and I would request Indian languages to try and translate this much too human. It's very important for us, because I think all of us are much too human. We should, and I think we're convenient with Gandhi. How many minutes do I have? 5? Okay. I think we're very convenient with Gandhi, because when we want to say that he's subhuman, we remember his experiments with celibacy. Those of us who believe that there is this antagonistic relation between Ambedkar and Gandhi, remember the very stubborn fast that he goes on to, and compels Ambedkar to say that this old man should not die. And so sometimes we make him subhuman. Sometimes we make him superhuman. And I think the credit of making him human is not mine. But I thought it's important for us to do this. Let me just begin by taking I think there is a commonality to all the questions that Nidhi, although I'm not sure, Nidhi, whether voting is my duty or voting is my right. So I'm not sure about, and I don't want to get into that comment now. Maybe that is a discussion it's my right. It's not my duty. It's an exercise of my sovereignty. It's an exercise of the fact that I contract the state, that the person who is representing me, I have a right over that person. It is his duty or her duty to represent me. But I think when we say it's my duty to vote, I think we are kind of changing the language of democratic politics in a way which I would not agree with. But there is a commonality to the questions that Ilyas, Smriti, and I don't see Amrinder, I don't see as well. But, and let me just try. Okay, fine. So, sorry. Let me just try and say what I didn't say at the end of the presentation which I made. And I think, see, why did I talk about critical Swaraj? So, why did Gandhi get onto civil disobedience? And civil disobedience has two words which are somehow antithetical. It's civil and it is disobedient. All right. Now, if we come to Swaraj, and so if I say critical disobedience, I'm not being as dialogical as or antithetical as Gandhi. But why do I have to be critical here? Why do I have to add this word critical? I have to add the word critical because I said, and I said it a little too quickly, I know, is that there is no normative vision. Why do you want to do a disobedience in India today? Kya chahte ho? And I keep the farmers' protest aside. That is a protest which political scientists need to study. It is a protest which was successful, which got the government to withdraw. It's a protest which went on as a satyagraha. The recent drivers' protest, 2 din mein khatam ho gaya. But that was and this was harming the interest of the market. The farmers' protest is something which you need to study. But there is a shortcoming there. What is the criticalness of that? And when I'm talking about criticalness, I'm using it in terms of critical social theory, which I mentioned. What is the normative that you want? What is the idea of India that you're looking for? When Gandhi gets onto civil disobedience or satyagraha, he has the concept of Swaraj. We have attained that. So there are two things which I want to say. I can't put critical disobedience. You're putting two somewhat you're putting two, and you're not getting into the kind of dialogical thing between like civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is magnificent. It is civil, but it is disobedient. So it's very, very potent. And that is why I use the word critical Swaraj and not critical disobedience. The other thing which I want to say, and I'm answering all of you, if I fall short of any one of you, please let me know. The other thing which I want to say is that, and that is following Nidhi. See, the problem with democracy is that, and you have talked about this, that we made our law and we have institutionalized it and all. But the problem with a democracy is this, that you have also institutionalized protest. You have institutionalized opposition. So who is supposed to oppose? The opposition in the parliament. And that is why, please note, and I'm here talking practical politics, if I want to get onto a protest movement, again the farmers' movement is an aberration. For a protest, I need police permission. I'm not talking Greek. I'm not talking Greek. You need police permission, right? The farmers' protest or the post-Nirbhaya rape protest were aberrations because both of them did not go for police permission. All right? So with democracy, there is a problem. The problem is that if you have institutionalized rule, you have also institutionalized opposition. And you know, for instance, if you read thinkers like if you read this political Uday Singh Mehta, he's talked about, or you know, when he says, we the people give ourselves this law. And that's the way the constitution, we the people, and it was during the NRC-CAA protest, we went on saying, we the people. So you have institutionalized protest. Now, the question is that we felt that democratic institutions are so effective that they'll be able to institutionalize self-rule as well as protest. That's a problem. And the last thing which I want to say, I didn't mean, and that's important for me to say that, I didn't mean that because violence is now justified, it is moral. What I'm trying to say is that when Gandhi uses non-violence as a moral tool, it is because at that time violence is not moral. The problem, look at the Gaza war, for instance. We are moralizing it. It's necessary. We need to do it. So when you moralize violence, how does non-violence become a moral alternative? You have to speak something else. And that is why when I use the word critical Swaraj, I think this is what we need to be. We need to first work out a normative vision. What is that normative vision? And I'll just take half a minute. Normative vision is what I was talking about, the inclusivity, the plurality, the equality, the condition of freedom, not freedom. You can't grant me freedom, you have to grant me conditions of freedom. And most importantly, this celebration of pleasure, I think we need to stop. We need to now focus on pain. I know in a country which is celebrating 75 years of freedom, to say let us talk about pain is bad. But I think sometimes bad makes more sense for research institutes than the good. The good has been accomplished. Let's focus on the pain. Thank you.
Responding the question, it is written by Gandhi and it is Gandhi's views. And I made it very clear that during the Vedic period, Narabali, Pashubali was there. And the violence came after the Jainism, Mahavir and Buddha. And then Gandhi was influenced by Rajsakhar. So that is what Gandhi's views. I have the history of violence before Mahavir. Thank you.
No, I think either they understood everything what I said or they didn't understand anything. So there is no question for me. So
On that note, with questions and counter questions, I think I can call this session to a close. A rich session, which I think belied a post-lunch session with exciting ideas and bringing Gandhi to life. Thank you.
Yeah. Most of the time, what I find interesting about academic conferences and gatherings are we spend a lot of time in non-academic things, but I don't know how to theorize at least this part, right? So with all the discussions being over, we are still waiting for some things which are not part, but which are part of human civilization and Indian culture. So I don't want to belie that tradition, and I want Devesh Bhai to please present memento to Smriti Ranjan Dhal and Darshana Madam. Thank you. A small instruction, tea is waiting outside on this side, and after that at 4:30 we'll start with offline and online presentations. Group number F, they have to be here in this hall only, and group number D and E will go to the MD building. Group D on the first, group E basement in Hindi department. Thank you. If you have any problem, please contact any of our students. They will take you to the respective places. Please join us for tea outside. Thank you.